Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. Quick recap as always for the week just gone, and then we're going to move on to UFC 238. So on pre-bets we took a 2-unit loss unfortunately, which moves us to 14-3 across the 17 UFC events so far this year. Small loss, it was Tonya Evinger that let us down. I'm not going to say I regret the bet, because the one worry I had going into that fight was that she was possibly washed up. Lena, same age though, at 37, albeit she hadn't shown the same wear and tear, but it was the only concern I really had, and we got a good price. We got minus 160, so in that respect I don't regret the bet. But yeah, she definitely was washed, and I think her career is probably over at the highest level for sure. So yeah, it was really disappointing to see that bet lose the way it did. She had a chance in round 2 as well. I don't know why she kept digging for that second hook. She should have readjusted her position. You could just see from a mile off that she was going to end up on the bottom. Because when she got her down and started to take her back, I thought, oh, game on, we're back in here. But it was just bizarre what she was doing. So oh well. So yeah, she was the main bet that we lost on. Most of the others hit. I also bought out of the Leonardo Santos bet the day of, which I totally regret. I started to overthink it with his layoff, with his age, with what might happen on the feet. He's low volume. The reason I bet him in the first place was because of the huge gulf in the ground game. I mean, I never expected Santos to one-punch Ray like he did. I thought he'd get him down and just destroy him on the mat, but I started to overthink it, and because I don't normally bet older fighters, especially ones with such a long layoff, but I just thought the skill gap was so vast it justified the bet. At minus 225 I took it out as well initially, and it dropped to around minus 150 on fight day, so I ended up buying out of that bet on the day, so that cost us some profit there unfortunately, which would have left us just with a 1-unit loss, but ultimately it was a 2-unit loss. Luckily it was reduced because I added Frank Camacho, a 1.5-unit bet, after I saw him look very good at 155 at the weigh-ins, and he looked amazing. I mean, Nick Hine is on his way out. Well, he's actually retired now. It was one of the reasons that I bet Camacho is because I thought Hine was on a bit of a decline. I also questioned him post USADA, but Camacho went out there and fought very smart. I wasn't quite convinced I was going to get that smart of a game plan from him, but yeah, he fought great. I mean, on that performance it should have been a max bet, but you just didn't know that Camacho was capable of that kind of performance. But Colin Oyama looks like he's working wonders there. He was advising him in the corner not to brawl as well, so I think that's a great move for his career, moving to Colin Oyama, and he was very disciplined at the weight as well, made the weight no problem. Didn't really get to see his cardio tested too much because it was all one-way traffic, but yeah, promising performance. So yeah, glad that I added that bet, but I did also add a unit on Darko Stoic. He didn't look so good. The kind of worries with him going into it were the low volume, which reared its head again, and cardio was also a concern, and that definitely reared its head. I do regret that bet. Should have steered clear there, but I mean, 2-unit loss on the night is very insignificant. We won 1.5 units on live betting, so ultimately we lost about half a unit on the night. $100 per unit or £100 per unit bettors are still about 7,800 in profit with us for 2019. June is absolutely full of betting opportunities. We've got the Dana White Contender Series starting. There's going to be 2 Contender Series in June. There's another couple of UFC events. I think there's 3 UFC events in fact. We've got a couple of PFLs. We've also got Cage Warriors. There's a big Cage Warriors now. Cage Warriors is a bit dicey with whether we get odds or not, but there's a huge Cage Warriors card coming up, so I'm very confident we're going to get odds for that. And I haven't taped it yet, but I know Cage Warriors very well, and looking at the card it looks like a very strong betting card potentially. And there's also a couple of Bellator cards. I'm particularly interested in the London Bellator card, so we've got plenty of opportunity to make some good profit this month and ensure that we continue our month on month profit. So far this year I think I'm in profit 5 out of 5 months, So aiming to make it 6 out of 6, but we have started off in the red, unfortunately, but only ever so slightly. Half a unit if you combine the live betting and pre-betting tips. Just to remind you of the service, guys, if you do subscribe to the service, please go to prommmabetting.com. Subscription packages are there. You can purchase pre-betting, you can purchase live betting, or you can purchase a package that combines the two. Live betting is done through a private chat on Discord. I offer the tips through audio, and I also text them, so I type them out in the chat room and provide them that way as well. We've got lots and lots of members in there now. It's real fun, just kind of spending the event, talking about the fights, talking about who we think is going to win, breaking down the fights, and ultimately making money. So the live betting service is working really, really well. Pre-bets are emailed out to members every week. If I discover more bets as the week goes on, just another email goes out. I do this weekly UFC prediction podcast. Bankroll management guidance is available if you do need some advice with regards to unit sizing and so forth. We take a marathon, not a sprint approach. I'm never going to advise you to risk 30-40 units of your bankroll on one UFC card. It's not going to happen. I'd rather take the slower road so that we never have these gigantic losing nights. Hence, weekend just gone on pre-bets, we lost 2 units. It's nothing. You can win that back so easy. And with the live betting, we only lost 1.5 units. So, half a unit in total we only lost. So, very, very minimal. You're not going to have a 20, 30, 40 unit losing night with me and totally destroy your bankroll. Marathon, not a sprint approach. As I said, 100 unit. £100 per unit, $100 per unit bettors are up 7,800 with me this year. The target is 20,000. Marathon, not a sprint, guys. We bet sensibly, no silly bets. As far as we're aware, we're the world's highest stakes MMA tipster. I like to verify with you guys that I'm betting what I'm tipping, so I post all my bet slips online. I use £1,000 per unit, and I'm more than happy to post the bet slips, which I do on Twitter every week once the fight's happened. Subscription packages are very, very competitive. Only cost you for a month $45, works out in sterling about £32. And if you've got a reasonable unit size, then you're easily going to make that money back. All of our bets are third-party tracked as well. Links are available on our website, and also below the video for this YouTube video, you can see links there in the bio part. You've got links to BetMMA, which is our UFC bets. You've got links to betting.gs, which is our live betting record, and there's another betting.gs one there, which is for boxing bets. And also, if I do end up doing like a double of UFC and boxing, because I can't record them on BetMMA, I put them on betting.gs. And for more kind of obscure events that BetMMA don't list MMA events, I mean, they do list most of them, so you can get most of them on there, but occasionally you get a more obscure one that perhaps they won't have on there, so I'll just put it on betting.gs. If you tweet the chap that runs it, he'll kindly put them on the site, but sometimes if you forget or whatever, they don't go on there, so sometimes odd occasions have to be recorded on there. So all bets are third party tracked. But if we move forward now, as I said, give us a check out on the website, prommmabetting.com. Subscription packages are on there. You can pay through PayPal. Give us a follow on Twitter at prommmabetting, and please hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers as quick as possible. But let's move on to the UFC 238 card. We're going to start from bottom to top. So we're going to start first of all with the Eddie Wineland fight taking on Grigor Popov. Eddie Wineland probably getting up there in fight years now. He's only 34, but he's been around a long time. He's had a lot of fights. He's had his jaw broken twice, which is the concern with Eddie, but he's had back-to-back fights now where the jaw's not been an issue. For some reason I thought he was a bit chinny before I taped this fight, but memory was well off there. He's only really been legitimately KO'd once. That was by Eduardo when he had his jaw broken. I can't remember if that was the first or second time. But yeah, he's not chinny. His 2 other KO losses were spinning back kick loss to Henan Barral, and I think that was a really premature stoppage, and there's a TKO loss via injury earlier in his career. So yeah, but obviously the jaw is an issue if that is still susceptible to being broken. I don't know what kind of surgery he had. I mean, RDA, I think he had some sort of titanium plate put in when he's broken. His jaw is apparently unbreakable now, so I don't really know how it works with broken jaws and how they vary in. I guess they vary in how severe they are and how they can be repaired. But his was broken a second time, so I mean mentally it does have to play a part. But he has had back-to-back fights now where it's been okay, so maybe he's getting a bit more comfortable back in there. He had a very close fight last time with Alejandro Perez. Media scores were 13-2 to Wineland, but he actually lost a unanimous decision. I watched the fight. When I'm capping fights, it's very hard for me to judge them because I'm just watching that one person in particular, so I can't say exactly who I'd score it for if it was a robbery, but you could see it was a very close fight. But I mean, Alejandro Perez is a decent fighter, so that's promising for Wineland. I don't think he's completely done. As I said, mileage is getting up there. He's got a good boxing style, holds his hands pretty low. He is there to be hit. He kind of likes to pull back and come back with counters, but he's got heavy hands. So this is going to be an interesting fight for him. He's taking on Grigory Popov, making his UFC debut. A complete can crusher. If you ever look at the opponents he's fought, real low quality. One of the worst can crushers I've come across. Does train at Tiger Muay Thai. Won the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts in 2014. So must have something about him if he won the tryouts and he's been with them since. He's got a big Thai boxing background. I watched his MMA fights. A lot of them are available. Seems overly reliant on low kicks. Seems pretty low volume. To give you an idea of the kind of caliber of opponents he's been facing, he's got 2 Gogo Plata wins, and his last opponent tapped out from being leg kicked on his back. So he's just fought absolutely no one, and he didn't blow me away on tape. As I said, low volume, leg kick heavy. I mean, we have seen one lose to that kind of style. Johnny Eduardo, an older guy. This guy is actually 35 as well. He's actually older than Eddie Wineland. But Eduardo was kind of a similar opponent, older Brazilian guy. Popov is, I think he's Russian, but he's kind of got an Asian look to him as well. I'm not sure exactly how his cultural heritage works. But yeah, he's an older guy, Muay Thai background, but I just don't think he has the kind of hands that Eduardo has, or the pop in them. So I'd be very surprised to see a repeat performance here. I have to go with Wineland. As always, we look at the betting line. Wineland he's minus 130 now. He was at minus 120. Can't say it's a big bet because it's Eddie Wineland, and there are unknowns with this guy. He didn't look great on tape, but you just never know how someone's going to look when they're making a UFC debut. But he is old, so I can't see there being vast improvements at 35. He's also fought a fair bit at flyweight. Eddie Wineland's a big bantamweight, so I think he's going to be the bigger guy. So I'm going to go with Eddie Wineland to get a W here. I think the odds are kind of fine where they are. I mean, maybe Wineland could be a bigger favourite, but yeah, it's Eddie Wineland in 2019. Jaw issues. You know, how does that still affect him mentally? I mean, he seemed to be okay against Perez in terms of letting his hands go, and got hit a fair bit in that fight and reacted fine, jaw held up fine. So I'll go with Eddie Wineland though to get back in the win column and take that fight. Next, women's flyweight fight. Really quickly, guys, on this one, Caitlin Chookagian, Joanne Calderwood. I'm not really going to go into too much detail with regards to this fight. I haven't done tape on it. I couldn't bring myself to go through Chookagian's fights because there's no way I'm betting on this fight. I think the line's exactly right. It's a pick'em. I completely agree with that. I think if anyone's looking for some parlay fodder, the fight goes to a decision, minus 300. I think that's playable. I really can't see a finish. I think it's going to be spent on the feet. Chookagian just gives the air a beating every fight. She's a bit taller than Calderwood. Calderwood's volume is higher, but she also just her punches are a bit more effectual. That Chookagian just, it's very nothing seems to land particularly hard. It's a really hard fight to call. I think it's going to be a split decision. I don't think Calder was going to get a grappling going here. I think it will be spent on the feet. I think it's going to be, what do the judges prefer? Are they favourable to Caitlin's grunts and oohs and ahs? Really hard one for me to pick, but I'm going to go with Calderwood, just because I think her punches will land with a bit more effect and be a bit more eye-catching to the judges. And perhaps on the night, that's what the judges will prefer. So I'll go with Calderwood to win a very tight split decision-y type of fight. I'd advise you not to bet it at the current line. Pick'em is right. Goes a distance, I think, is a decent potential parlay leg though. Men's middleweight division next. Bevan Lewis, Darren Stewart. Bevan Lewis, John Jones' training partner, trains out of Jackson Wink. Looks, he's a solid guy. He's got a good stand-up, good volume. Looks like a decent fighter. Issue is potentially his chin. I mean, he dominated Uriah Hall and then just got cracked and bad knockout in the third round. He was out for quite some time, so a bit of a worry. But we saw him in the Contender Series a couple of times, a couple of comfortable wins. It looks like a decent prospect, but the chin is a worry after that knockout. I mean, he's facing a big puncher here in Darren Stewart. Darren from London. He's kind of overperformed as of late, I think, after what everyone thought of him after his first few fights. He was unlucky in his last fight against Edmund Shevchenko and had him in big trouble in the third round. Just couldn't get the finish. Came really, really close, but just couldn't finish him. Stewart's tough, he's game, he's gritty, hits hard. The UFC, I think, like him. They gave him a second bite at the cherry. If he loses here, looking at his record, I think he might be cut, so he might be fighting for his job here. They gave him a chance again after he lost his first 3 fights, so I think he's probably fighting for his job here, unfortunately, because, as I say, he's an entertaining guy, gritty, tough. I think he's going to be outclassed here, but he's always got a puncher's chance, Darren Stewart, and he hits hard, so I wouldn't be shocked if he caught Bevan with something, but I'm going to go with Bevan Lewis's quality to shine through here and him to win a decision, but I don't think he's going to get Darren out of there, so he's going to have to be careful. I think it is going to be on the feet for 3 rounds, and to be fair to Darren, I mean, the only fight he's really had in the UFC where someone's been content to stand with him was the Charles Bird fight, really. I mean, Spicely, I don't think he came anywhere near takedown, so it was spent mostly on the feet, but I guess in the back of his mind he was probably thinking there could be a takedown attempt from Spicely at any point, and he definitely wouldn't have wanted to be on the floor with Spicely, who is very effective there. But apart from that, I mean, Carl Robertson took him down, Barroso, there was a lot of clinching and so forth. Julian Marquez, I mean, that was a brawl, but there was also a lot of, in fact, I think it was Darren that was initiating the clinching with Marquez, actually, thinking back. That was kind of his style, actually, on the regional scene, was he would do a lot of kind of cage grinding and so forth. So if you're saying that, maybe you try and encompass some of that here, but I just think Bevan's going to be too well schooled for him. I think he's going to control the range, outbox him and win a decision, but he needs to be careful with Darren's power. I would not be shocked if Darren KO'd him. Minus 240 sitting there, it's too wide for me to play Bevan coming back from a nasty KO against a big puncher. I'd need lower to consider Bevan here. I'd need to see how he responds, because that was a bad knockout, but I think he is I think the quality will shine here and he'll win a decision. One thing to note as well, Bevan does have a 5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage, which I think he will use here to good effect. So Bevan Lewis to win a decision. Women's strawweight division next, we've got Yan taking on Angela Hill. Yan, she's looked pretty good so far, but she hasn't fought anyone of note in the UFC. She's had 3 pretty comfortable fights. She's fought Suri Kondo, Viviane Pereira and Kaylin Curran, so she's been very fortunate with her matchmaking, in my opinion, so far. Suri Kondo's got another UFC fight, the other 2 have been cut now. I think Kondo might be getting cut after her next fight, potentially. I think she's got actually Yoda. I've not done tape on that yet, actually, so it might be a winnable fight for Kondo. But it was a bad stylistic fight for her against Yan. She's aggressive. She seems to hit reasonably hard. She's got good straight punches. Not much footwork though, and she is hittable. So this is a step up. So this will help us identify how far Yan's going to go. I don't think she's another Weili Zhang. I don't think she's on that level, and I think Angela Hill presents a potential issue for her. I've seen on Bet MMA that no one's betting Hill hardly, which I'm quite surprised about. I think Hill gets a bit of a tough rap for, I can understand one not wanting to bet her as a favourite, but she got up as far as plus 185 on the betting line, which for me, after doing tape, I pretty much thought this was a pick-em fight. Maybe Yan a slight favourite. What I don't like with regards to Hill is this is going to be her third fight in the space of like 3 months, so she's not really had much time off. She's not had much time to rest the body. I think the Randa fight was for short notice, was it? And then Escobel was short notice. So, I mean, it's not like she's been in kind of back-to-back long training camps, but still, I don't really like someone fighting that close together, and especially when she's got a questionable gas tank. I do worry that the gas tank could come into play here. So I'm going to pick, as I say, this is a betting podcast. I'm going to pick Angela Hill. I'm not overly confident with the pick, but I think the line is well off. Anyone that got plus 185, I think that's worth a stab. Now, I wouldn't go big on Angela Hill at all, because she is hard to trust. She might gas, but she's going to pump volume out there. She's going to use lots of footwork, something that Yan hasn't seen before. She might even mix in the clinch as well, which Yan did struggle with against Kaylin Curran. It's a shame Hill doesn't go for more takedowns, because that was a definite area of weakness when she fought Kaylin Curran, who actively went for the takedown and secured some of them. But even if it's played out on the feet, I just think this is definitely a step up for Yan. Yan's like nearly 30 herself. She's no spring chicken, so let's see what kind of level she's at. But yeah, I think the line should be closer. So I think Angela Hill's definitely worth a stab here, but I wouldn't bet Yan as a minus 215 favourite. But I think it should be closer to a pick'em, and for me it would probably then be a pass. Light goes the distance, I think, is a pass on this one. This one's wider than the Chukagan Calderwood line. I think this is at minus 400, so I wouldn't want to pay that much, but I'm sure this one's going to go to a decision as well. So I'll go with Hill to win a tight split decision-y type fight. So similar to the Chukagan Calderwood fight in that sense, but I think it will be more entertaining. Men's featherweight division next, Ricardo Lamas, Calvin Kattar. Calvin's got a 1 inch reach advantage, 3 inches of height. In terms of strikes landed per minute, Calvin's at 5, Ricardo's at 3 basically. Absorbed, Ricardo's about 2.5, Calvin is up at over 6.5. Lamas 32% takedown accuracy, and Calvin's got 75% takedown defence. I think it's only worth stating them two facts on the grappling, because if anyone's going to want to take this down, it will be Ricardo. Went into this tape thinking I would really like Calvin here, but it's a hard fight to call, because Ricardo's calf kicks are so effective. Now he is getting up there in age. He's 37 now. He just turned 37. He's coming off a solid win over Darren Elkins. He suffered a really, really bad knockout loss to Josh Emmett, one of the most brutal knockout losses you'll see. But yeah, his calf kicks are so effective. I mean, I went all the way back. I watched his fight with Max Holloway, because I mean, I know they're not the same fighter, but Max kind of boxing centric style, kind of similar to Calvin's in that sense. And I mean, where he struggled against Max was when Max would close the gap and get in close and just let his hands go. But at range, Calvin was having some good success with them leg kicks, and Max actually fought that whole fight southpaw as well. So he was still having success landing the outside calf kick to Max. It's a really effective tool for him. He wrecked Diego Sanchez's leg with it. He wrecked Darren Elkins' leg with it. And the problem with Calvin is he's very boxing centric, as I said, and he isn't like Max. He won't close the distance, close the gap to land his shots, which will then take away the calf kick. He kind of likes to stand at range and basically sit at kicking range. So potentially the damage can be done by Ricardo, and we saw against Moicano his legs got chewed up. We even saw Chris Fishgold landing some effective kicks before he got stopped. So it's a hard fight to call. I mean, in terms of judging, it's really hard to win a fight from leg kicks because judges do prefer punches and headshots, and Calvin is going to land those on Ricardo as long as his fight is standing. So Ricardo probably is going to need to do the kind of damage he done to Elkins and Sanchez, where it actually starts to jeopardise Calvin's movement, and you can see that his legs really been affected. So I mean, it's, if you think that's how someone's, or you think that's someone's only path to win a fight, it is hard to bet them, because as popular as the calf kicks are now, and they are starting to do damage more often in fights, it's still quite a low percentage thing to say someone's going to go out there and damage someone's leg with calf kicks. But Calvin's definitely got the style where he's susceptible to it, so it's very interesting. But he's got really good hands, really good boxing. I think he will have better hands than Ricardo. I mean, Ricardo does have that wrestling as well. I don't really think he's going to have much success with it here. I can't see him kind of grounding Calvin out in this fight. I think it will predominantly play out on the feet, and it's going to be Calvin's boxing versus Ricardo's calf kicks. I feel it's whether the calf kicks can do the kind of damage that means he needs to switch stance and he starts hobbling. It's definitely not a bet for me though. After doing the tape, Calvin's -170. I'll be passing on that. Ricardo +150. Like I said, it's just hard to bet him though, because I feel like I'm relying on him jeopardising Calvin's movement with the calf kicks, which feels a little bit low percentage, even though he's proven to be very effective at it. And although he didn't jeopardise Max's movement, he definitely reddened his calf. So I'm going to pick Calvin to win a decision, just because I can't pick someone, because I think they're going to jeopardise someone's movement with calf kicks. But for someone like Ricardo, it's a way higher percentage than most people that could happen, so I wouldn't be shocked if that happens and he ends up winning a decision himself. But I'll go with Calvin's smoother boxing, but it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches his fight, because he's shown real poor ability to check low kicks before, and he's shown a susceptibility to leg kicks. So it's an interesting fight, but I will go with Calvin's boxing to win him the day here. Back at women's strawweight, Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Alexa Grasso. Really hard fight for me to call this one. Karolina's coming off that loss to Michelle Walterson not long ago. It was only end of March, so quick turnaround for her here. Before that, the knockout to Andrade. She's also started to talk about retiring, to have kids soon, so kind of where is she at? Before that, she beat Felice Herrig. Kind of normal Karolina performance there. Great work in the clinch with her elbows and her knees. Alexa Grasso is more boxing centric. Karolina's going to want to get the clinch, land her knees and elbows. Hasn't really performed in the UFC so far, Alexa, but she's only 25 years of age. I mean, she did have Tatiana Suarez last time out. I mean, she's been out a year as well. Before that, beat Randa Marcos in a close fight, and she lost to Felice Herrig in a really disappointing performance there. Didn't really do anything for the first couple of rounds, kind of woke up in round 3, but yeah, just didn't look great there. So it's going to be interesting to see how she looks here, because to be fair to her, we haven't really seen her since the Marcos fight, which is nearly 2 years ago. The Suarez fight, I can't really take anything from that. She was just taken down and choked. So this is the first time we're going to get to see a full game in 2 years. It's a close fight, hard fight to call, but I think her career potentially is going one way and Karolina's going the other way. I think it's going to be a close fight. Line's tightened a lot now. Karolina was a bigger favourite, but -130 now. Alexa is +110. I'll take Grasso just because I think she's got more upside and she's the underdog. What I do like though is fight goes to a decision, -300. I think you could put a little bit on that with the Calderwood fight going to a decision as well. I think that's a bad fight for them two. I really don't see finishes in either fight, so I'll go with Grasso to win a decision there. Aljamain Sterling, Pedro, Munhoz, really interesting fight here. Sterling, it's got a 7-inch reach advantage. His striking has improved vastly. I went back and listened to my breakdown of his fight with Jimmie Rivera. I picked him to win against Jimmie Rivera, and I picked him to win by outstriking him. I think Pedro does present some problems Aljamain's not had before, basically the pressure, and also is Sterling going to be anxious with regards to shooting because of the guillotine threat. Now, what I did notice from Aljamain is he shoots the single leg a lot with his head on the inside, so his neck should be fine in that sense, and it's not like he doesn't really 100% commit to the takedown. He just uses it to get you up against the fence where he can kind of grind against you. And what I do like is he's constant kind of shooting and throwing kicks at range and kind of coming in and out. It just makes him really unpredictable. So I really don't want him to stop any of that here against Pedro. I'd want him to be fighting his normal game. I think you've just got to take the risk with the guillotine. Like I said, he shoots his head on the inside. What I don't like from Aljamain is I've noticed when he's been pressured a few times, he has kind of panic shot, a double leg, which does leave your head exposed. So in that instance, it does leave the guillotine threat there. So yeah, I just don't really know how he's going to respond to the constant pressure. Is he going to shoot the single legs? Does he have the footwork to keep getting out of the way? Can see Pedro perhaps having more success as the fight wears on. Pedro, pressure machine, great chin. He's got that guillotine threat with the takedowns. It's a hard fight to call. I'm going to pick Sterling as long as he fights his normal game. If he doesn't shoot the takedowns because he's worried about the guillotine and he just stands, he's going to become more predictable. I think Pedro's going to start to cut him off and start to get to him as the fight wears on. I don't think Aljamain's a skillful enough striker to kind of hit and run against Pedro like John Dodson done. I think he's just got to fight his natural game here and just mix in them single legs with the head on the inside, get Pedro up on the fence, spend some time working him against the fence and just stay unpredictable like he normally does. So I'll go with Sterling to win a decision. I don't like the way the line's going though from a betting respect. Sterling's -150 now. I'd like him a bit tighter, I think, to bet him. Money's coming in on him, so yeah, I quite like. I mean, I'm not a fight goes the distance better because I don't like the sweat, but -165, I think that's pretty decent for a fight to go to a decision. And if you don't want to bet Aljamain but you think he wins, I think that's, it's 0.15 points more expensive, and if Pedro wins a decision it covers you there, and I don't think that's a bad bet potentially, because I could see Pedro definitely winning via a decision as well. So I think that line's possibly, if you're that way inclined and you don't mind them kind of bets, I think that's worth a look. And next we've got a lower level men's heavyweight fight, Ivanov, Tuivasa. I've done no tape on this, guys, as you probably know if you've been listening to the podcast. Low level heavyweights, it's very rare for me to bet them, so in terms of me having much enthusiasm to tape them, not really. I mean, from memory, Tuivasa hasn't looked great. He's a young guy, potentially improving, trains in the Tyson Pedro Mark Hunt camp, and Ivanov coming off, I remember the fight against Ben Rothwell because I live betted Ben Rothwell, and I mean, sometimes when you've got money on a fight you can be partial to one side, the side that you've betted, so maybe I need to go back and watch it. I've not looked at the media scores, but I remember thinking it was a bad decision at the time. He got quite fortunate, but Tuivasa's not the best, but I'm not going to make a prediction because I haven't done tape on this fight, as I said, to be completely honest. It's a low level heavyweight fight. The line's Tuivasa's a slight favourite, which I was going to say it probably should be a pick-em-ish kind of fight, so I can't see there being a great deal of value in either line, so I'm just going to, complete pass on that one for me, guys. I think I've messed the order of the fights up as well. I'm really surprised that that's on the main card. Tuivasa against Blagoy Ivanov. I thought Suarez would have been on the main card, so I skipped that one. So you've got Tatiana Suarez against Nina Ansaroff. Suarez is a giant favourite, around minus 900 I think she is now. She was up at minus 1100. I think I saw her at one point. There's not a lot to say here. I mean, Nina's a solid striker. She's got nice striking, but I think she's just going to get taken down and just grounded out here. It's just a case of whether Suarez can stop her or not. But I don't think Nina can stop the takedown. Randa Marcos was able to get her down and control her for a round. Claudia Gadelha, I think, controlled her in the first round, but as Gadelha does these days, just really regressed, slowed down. But Suarez is a different animal. Best women's MMA wrestler that I've seen, and she doesn't like to land prey. She likes to go for the finish as well, so I have to go with Suarez here. Not sure if she'll get the finish or not, but I think it'll be a dominant kind of 30-27, maybe 13-26 kind of win. We saw a destruction against Carlos Esparza, so similar kind of performance would not surprise me at all here. So I mean, the line's obviously bordering on unplayable. Well, is unplayable, not bordering on. Is unplayable, but I don't see any other outcome there but a Suarez win. So back to the main card. So the second fight of the main card is Jimmie Rivera taking on Petr Yan. I'm very, very high on Petr Yan. I've got to admit, when I done take before his UFC debut, I wasn't overly impressed, but since he's been in the UFC, the guy's really, really impressed me. 3 inches of height on Jimmie. Jimmie's actually got the 1 inch reach advantage though. Strikes landed per minute. Peter's up at 6.5. Jimmie's just 4. Strikes absorbed. Jimmie's at 4. Peter's at 3. Takedowns. Jimmie averages. He's got decent wrestling, but he averages less than 1 takedown attempt per, or 1 takedown completed per 15 minutes. 27% takedown accuracy. 100% takedown defense. So Petr Yan's not going to get him down. Petr Yan actually averages just under 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. 50% takedown accuracy. And 83% takedown defense. Yeah, Peter's just blown me away. Really, really tidy stand-up. Trains out of Tiger Muay Thai. Switches stances seamlessly. Puts together really, really solid combinations. Looked really, really good against John Dodson. He did get dropped in that fight, but Dodson drops a lot of people. Dropped Marlon Moraes as well, so I'm not really too worried about that. It's just Petr Yan's style. He likes to get in the pocket. So he can be hit because he's in the pocket. That's where he likes to be. But I've been extremely impressed with the guy. Fight before that, he dealt with Douglas Andrade very impressively. Jinsu Son before that, who actually looks like a beast. I'm really intrigued to see him again. But he dealt with him no problem. And Jimmie Rivera, he's on a bit of a skid at the moment. I'm not sure if he's having a crisis of confidence. He in the corner in the Aljo fight, he was kind of saying he wasn't feeling himself and so forth. And I mean, before that he did beat John Dodson, and before that he's coming off that really quick head kick loss to Marlon Moraes. So he had a close fight with Thomas Almeida as well. I just think Petr Yan's going to be too much for him here. I think he's going to overwhelm him. I wouldn't be shocked by a stoppage even. Aljamain had him in a little bit of trouble on the feet in round 2. I can just see Petr Yan overwhelming him, and I would not be shocked if he gets the decision here, the stoppage here, because Jimmie's chin, I'm not overly sold on it. We have seen him hurt in a few fights, and we've seen him knocked out against Marlon Moraes, and I didn't like how in round 2 he got backed up to the fence, and Aljamain was kind of unloading on him. Petr Yan's going to bring the pressure here. So I'm going to go with Petr Yan, and I'm going to pick Peter to win by a knockout actually. His betting line, it's actually dropped. He's down at minus 300 now. He was up at minus 350 at one point. I mean, it is expensive. Jimmie Rivera, let's not forget, he's a legitimate fighter. Let's not kind of rule him out completely here. He hits hard. He likes to bang in the pocket. He's going to get that against Petr Yan, so he's got a chance here. So there's a little bit of juice on the Petr Yan line there, but I think he's going to show that he was worthy of that kind of minus 300 price tag. But yeah, I mean, do you want to play the minus 300 though in what could be a bit of a shootout this fight? So yeah, but I mean, I feel that's probably around right. I mean, maybe a little bit cheaper, but I don't feel there's anything particularly wrong with that line. So I'll go with Petr Yan to win inside the distance. Next fight, we've got my favourite fighter, Tony Ferguson, taking on Donald Cerrone. What a fight this is going to be. I've bet on Tony in his last 9 fights. Came through for me every time. It pretty much makes you sweat like a pig every time. But the guy's guaranteed violence, guaranteed savagery, guaranteed entertainment, and Donald Cerrone is guaranteed entertainment as well. So this is going to be a great fight. It's a shame it's not headlining one of the smaller cards, so we got it as a 5-round fight. Donald, he's looked reinvigorated since he's gone back to lightweight. I mean, he kind of moaned about making the weight and how much he struggled. Went to welterweight, had early success at welterweight, and then he lost 3 fights in a row. In fact, he lost 4 of his last 5 fights at welterweight. The Robbie Lawler fight was very close, could have gone either way. And he came back well against Leon Edwards, actually. Apparently he was ill for that fight, and he lost the first 3 rounds, but he came back and took the last couple. Then Mike Perry he beat at welterweight, so he did actually rebound actually at welterweight towards the end. But he's gone back to lightweight. Alex Hernandez he ran through, and then coming off an impressive dominant decision victory over Al Quinta. It was only a month ago though. You know, he's 36. He's having to cut weight again. He's coming off a tough 5-round fight. Tony Ferguson, he's not fought for kind of 7-8 months. Got hit by a big shot by Pettis, but I don't think he was overly hurt. Apparently he doesn't spar as well, so although he does take damage in fights, I think he's pretty smart with his training. I know that sounds funny saying Ferguson's smart with his training, because I know all the kind of dumb stuff he's done, or I won't call it dumb, but kind of different style of training that he's used, and he has done some dumb stuff actually. I've seen him like deadlifting with a rounded back and so forth, but I think he's actually pretty smart with his actual sparring, and he's very unique in the sense that he's got his own camp. He doesn't train really with any names. I mean, I've seen him, he trains with Eddie Bravo, he's a black belt with Eddie Bravo, and I've seen him kind of knocking around with Aljamain and a few others now and again, but generally he seems to have made his own camp. There's no big names in there. It's worked really, really well for him, and I think that not sparring heavy and whatnot's really given him this longevity and allowed him not to have been KO'd so far in his career. His pressure is insane. His elbows are ridiculous. They just cut you to pieces. Amazing cardio. He's got good rangy boxing. Defensively, he's where he is laps, he can be hit. My worry here is Donald Cerrone's head kick. Now normally I'd say head kick or bust. It's pretty low percentage. I'll take the risk. But with Donald Cerrone, it's not low percentage. He's extremely effective with that head kick. He can bring it up out of nowhere, and he can land it even when the distance has been closed, which is what Tony is going to want to do here. He's going to want to close the gap. He's going to want to bring the pressure on Cerrone, but he can still land that head kick, and because of Tony's defensive vulnerabilities, I wouldn't be shocked if he did get caught with a head kick. So I have to pick Tony because the guy's just an outright savage. He's not coming off a 5-round fight a month ago. He's not coming off a difficult weight cut from a month ago. I think he is the fresher guy for me. Donald's had almost 50 fights now, and he has been stopped multiple times as well. But yeah, he's had this second lease of life, so I don't want to write Donald off here by saying he's on his way out, because clearly he doesn't seem to be. But I think this is a tall ask for him, and the money has come in on Donald. Tony is minus 135 now, but I can't go big on Tony here either, because I do have visions of him getting caught with that head kick. But otherwise, I think Cerrone to win this fight can only win by knockout. I don't think he can win a decision. I think he's going to have to land that head kick because I think Tony's got the better hands. I can't see Donald knocking Cerrone out of his hands. But as I say, that head kick is a high percentage move for Donald Cerrone, extremely high percentage. So that would not shock me. But I will go Tony, but I wouldn't go big. He's had that mental health issue fairly recently. Now, I'm not going to bring that into my capping because I feel that's something that is impossible to cap. But it is something worth bearing in mind that, a few months ago there was some kind of breakdown there. So whether that affects the fight or what, I don't know. But as I said, it's very difficult to bring that into the equation in capping. So it is in the back of my thoughts, but I'm trying to disregard it as much as I can. I do go Ferguson. I think probably a decision, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got Cerrone out of there. He uses a really, really good teep kick, Tony, which takes. Donald's only really shown body vulnerability to the liver kick, so I don't think the teep's really going to hurt him to the body. Actually, it's just whether the pressure eventually folds him. And when you fight Tony as well, you know you're going to be in for some pain because those elbows, man, they just cut everyone up. I remember the Josh Thompson fight, he cut him up with elbows. Edson Barboza, Anthony Pettis, just vicious elbows. So I'll go with Ferguson to win a decision in a fight of the night. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait for the return of the boogeyman, El Kakui. Women's title fight next. Valentina Shevchenko taking on Jessica Eye. I'm going to be really quick on this, guys. I just can't see how Jessica Eye wins this fight. She's a minus, or Shevchenko's a minus 1,400 favourite. It's MMA, so maybe that's a little bit steep because anything can happen in this game. But it's women's MMA, so the kind of one punch out of nowhere finishes likelihood diminishes massively compared to men's. She's 31, Shevchenko, coming off that win over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, pretty dominant win. She lost to Amanda Nunes in a really, really close fight. I just can't see what Jessica Eye possesses here. She's a decent boxer, but yeah, you look at her run and none of it was particularly impressive. Kalindra Faria, very close fight. Jessica Rose Clark, she won that fight. I think that was mainly off grappling. I haven't done tape, by the way. I just didn't feel there was no point. There's no, I'm not going to be betting someone at minus 1,400. I think the only angle from a betting perspective to look at for this fight, and then there was the Chikagan fight as well, which again was really, really close. Could have gone either way. I can't remember who I live betted in that fight, Chikagan or I, but I remember it was really, really close. I think the only angle to explore from a betting perspective there is if the fight can go the distance. Fight goes to a decision, plus 145. Might have some value. Who stopped her? Faria did drop her with a head kick, but still went to a decision. Leslie Smith got a TKO. Oh no, she stopped Leslie. Leslie's ear was hanging off. So I'm on Tapology. It doesn't tell me about the Aslin Daly fight, but that's back in 2011, just as lost. So I don't know if that was inside the distance, but she's not been stopped. But this is a 5-round fight. We aren't just talking about 3 rounds here. She stopped Cachoeira, but come on, man. Juliana Pena, she managed to armbar. I might have some value, plus 145. I'm not sure Shevchenko's going to stop her on the feet. I think she'll outclass her. Will she go to her grappling? But I think that's got some value, to be fair. Women's fight to go the distance. It is 5 rounds, but plus 145. Yeah, I think that's actually something to look into. I hadn't actually really thought about it myself. I hadn't really looked at the line. I'm sure when I last looked it was more like a plus 120, but plus 145 now seems a little bit off. But yes, the winner's going to be Shevchenko. I'll take her by decision, and yeah, that inside the distance line's actually pretty appealing, because it's not like Shevchenko goes out there and kind of goes for the kill. She's counter striker. She doesn't have a massive, she's not like a big Amanda Nunes kind of hitter. So just Karai, I don't think she's been stopped. So it's quite interesting actually. Let's just look at the strike ratio. So Shevchenko's only up at kind of 3.5. We're 1 inch reach advantage. That's quite interesting line actually. But Shevchenko to win a decision. Right, main event of the night, the men's vacant bantamweight championship. We've got Marlon Moraes taking on the flyweight champion Henry Cejudo. It seems like the flyweight division is going to be going. They've barely got any fighters left on the roster now. Marlon Moraes, he's been on an absolute tear. His last few fights, he's torn through Aljamain Sterling, Jimmie Rivera, Rafael Assunção, all first round stoppages. His first fight in the UFC was to Rafael Assunção, lost a split decision. I don't agree with that decision. I thought he won that decision. And then he won a split decision over Dodson. I thought he won the first 2 rounds pretty clearly. Third round, maybe Dodson edged that. But yeah, he's looked really, really solid. He's got some good wins pre-UFC as well. He stopped Moraes, dropped him and subbed him. He's been 5 rounds a couple of times, a couple of 5-round decision wins. Henry Cejudo's coming off that win over TJ Dillashaw. Very impressive knockout. Should TJ have been down at 125? Probably not. Before that, Demetrius Johnson, split decision win. I don't think he won that fight. I went back and watched it. I remember I live betted Demetrius in that fight, and I was shocked when he didn't get the decision. I went back and watched it. Money not on the line, so completely impartial. And I don't think Henry won that fight. He had it works out about 3 minutes top control across the 25 minutes. He was outstruck on the feet. Yeah, he was moving forward, but he wasn't doing anything with it. He was just leg kicked to death by Demetrius Johnson. But the problem is judges don't like leg kicks, but then it wasn't like Henry was landing face punches. He wasn't even landing that. So I looked at the media scores and it was a pretty even split, but I personally just don't know how you can score that fight for Henry. I could score that 4-1 for DJ, 3-2 worst case for me. Just think that was a clear win. Before that, he beat Sergio Pettis, took the easiest route for him there, just took him down, won a clean decision. And before that, he beat Wilson Hayes. Looked really good. That was the first time we saw that kind of karate stance that he now encompasses. But as we saw against DJ, there are problems with that in terms of leg kicks, and Marlon Moraes is going to use that to his advantage. I'm not trying to discredit Henry here. He's a solid fighter. I don't think his MMA wrestling has transitioned, or his wrestling has transitioned to MMA that well. He got Demetrius down a few times, but it was from a body lock, inside trip. Demetrius isn't a big flyweight even. I don't think he really cuts much weight. Marlon Moraes, much bigger guy, big 135er, going to be strong. He's got a legitimate black belt with Ricardo Almeida. We haven't really seen Marlon's takedown defence tested though. John Dodson caught a couple of kicks and got him down, but he managed to go for leg locks to scramble back up. So we're not really sure what his ground game or get up game's like either. But Henry is more of a layer and prayer. I don't think he's that effective at maintaining top position. So there are some unknowns with Marlon. How his takedown defence holds up. But as I say, I don't think Henry's his wrestling has transitioned that well to MMA. And also, if he does get him down, what are his get-ups like? But again, Henry's not like a dominant player from top position, and it's very hard to hold someone down at these lighter 125 pound, 135 pound weight classes, because the guys are so scrambly. So I do see this fight predominantly being on the feet. And yeah, Marlon's is just a lot bigger than anyone Henry's faced. He's definitely got the best stand-up of anyone he's faced. And Sergio Pettis, he took him down easy, but Sergio's just physically just not very strong. He kind of gets taken down by whoever wants to. I don't think he's going to be able to easily take Marlon down, and if he does get Marlon down, like I say, I don't know if he can keep him down. So if it comes down to a fight on the feet, you've got to favour Marlon. He's the seems like a lifelong striker. Cejudo, he's picked it up excellently. He's obviously a grade A athlete. He's made big improvements. If you watch his earlier fights, his stand-up's come along a long way, but I don't fancy him in a firefight with Marlon Moraes, and Marlon's a finisher as well. That guy's got power in his hands and his legs. So I think we're going to see Marlon be crowned the champ here. But there are, as I say, takedown defence and the get-up game. I'm making some assumptions there, just based on kind of what I've seen from Henry and the few snippets we've seen from Marlon. But there is a path there for Henry, but at the bigger weight class, I think it's a big ask for him. Betting line, Marlon's about -130 at the moment. He's just gone up to -135. I don't think that should go much higher, but I do regard him as the favourite here. I think he is going to win. Can he stop Henry? Henry seems to have one of them big kind of granite heads, but never really seen his chin tested. In fact, I mean, the biggest shots I think I've seen him take were in the fight with Joseph Benavidez that he lost a split decision in. I mean, really close fight that could have gone either way. I think there was someone was deducted a point. I can't remember who it was. I think it was maybe Henry that was deducted the point. So I can't remember now how that affected the scores, but it was a really, really close fight either way. But I think Henry maybe should have got the nod in that fight. But yeah, I don't think he won the DJ fight, so it is what it is. But yeah, he's definitely improved. He's a grade A athlete. But this is, for me, moving up in weight here, this is a huge test for him. TJ shouldn't have been at 125. He was well too depleted, and the shot that kind of initially dropped TJ was, it caught him like behind the ear, straight back of the head. It was one of them funny shots you see from time to time in MMA, that it lands and it just wrecks your equilibrium, puts you on queer street. But it's kind of a bit of a fluky shot, because when you throw it, the aim isn't for it to land there. It's just like you duck your head and it ends up clipping there and really affects you. And with the weight cut TJ had, I just don't think he had much water weight protecting his brain. I just think that was a savage cut and he never should have done it. But still, impressive win to take out TJ Dillashaw in 32 seconds. Impressive to defeat Demetrius Johnson, even though I think that was an unjust decision. So the guy's going to be full of confidence. He's on a tear. But I think the Magic Man's going to be too much for him here. I think the stand-up is going to be too powerful for him. I think physically he's going to meet someone that he can't just ragdoll down to the floor or hold on the floor. I think Marlon can get back to his feet. I'm sure that's something he's been drilling. He's a legitimate black belt. So I'm going to go with Marlon to win this. I'm not sure whether he'll stop Henry. He might catch him with something, but I can see him winning a decision as well, if he can't get his wrestling game going. So yeah, I'll go with Marlon to be the new bantamweight champion of the world. So that wraps up this week, guys. As I said, subscription packages on the website prommmabetting.com. We're 14 and 3 on UFC events this year. Members who bet £100 or $100 per unit are up £7,800 or dollars. And you can give us a follow on Twitter at prommmabetting. And if you want to hit the subscribe button, please do, and please feel free to leave comments as well. Happy to interact with you guys, answer any questions or receive any of your thoughts. You don't agree with some of the stuff I say, then I'm very open-minded. I'd like to hear others' thoughts as well. So good luck if you're betting this card, and I'll be back for the UFC. I think there's a break actually after this card, so I'll be back in 2 weeks for the June 22nd card.